Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard, and thank you for watching today's Canada Regional Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We've got a bit of an active phase going on right now, especially across the United States, but that's going to bring some changes to the weather here across the Canadian Prairie region. We see this little wave. I'm going to go ahead and click back here and go bit by bit. A subtle little wave moving across the Prairie region here, bringing some light snow to get the weekend kicked off. But then our attention turns to the south. We see another much stronger wave lifting through the Midwest. That's going to bring heavy snow to the upper Midwest, the Dakotas, and the Minnesota, state of Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. Really missing out again on much of the Canadian Prairie region, but maybe southern Manitoba getting in on some of the snow with this one, and then moving in on into Ontario as well. But again, Alberta, Saskatchewan largely missing out on the snow from this one. We can look at that from the snow forecast here. Again, light snow falling across central Alberta and maybe central Manitoba from that first wave on Friday, maybe an inch to 3 inches across central Alberta here. But then as we play this out through the weekend, I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. You see the snow swath from our Saturday and Sunday storm system across the Midwest, the upper Midwest of the United States, again bringing maybe an inch to 3 inches across parts of Ontario. But check out the Canadian Prairie region here, our high production area. Not seeing much of that, just maybe a light coating from central Alberta across central Manitoba, or central Saskatchewan into central Manitoba eventually. But not seeing any significant snowfall here as we head into the early part of next week. We'll look at this here with the precipitation type forecast from the European long range model. I'll go ahead and step through this in slower time here. And again, we see Friday afternoon some of that light snow falling across central Alberta, getting into central Saskatchewan. That wave kind of moves off to the east, doesn't really get too terribly organized because most of our energy is confined to the central U.S. here. And again, where we see that much stronger, much more well-defined storm system now taking shape over the Midwest, moving into the Great Lakes over the back half of the weekend. When we play this out, we see another storm system take a very similar route next week, but maybe getting a little bit closer to bringing some snow to the Canadian Prairie region here. We're getting way out there, so I'm not going to dive into specifics, but we get into Wednesday night into Thursday morning. We see a very intense low pressure center being forecast here. Again, this is the long-range European model, but it does show up on the GFS model, the American long-range model. Good consistency within the forecast models that we will see this big storm system exist. Just depends on where exactly the center of that storm tracks and where the impacts are going to be felt. But here we go. Again, I don't want to talk about specifics, but if we just had it happen exactly as it looks right now, Thursday morning, maybe seeing some of that heavier snow and the gusty winds bringing some very wintry and stormy conditions into, at the very least, maybe southern Manitoba getting into Ontario there. But I hesitate to commit to that too much before maybe we see this thing shift to the south, and that brings the snow south with it again and hits the upper Midwest. So I just want to mention that we're watching it. If we're going to see any kind of significant snowfall in southern Manitoba getting into Ontario, I think it's going to be from this storm system mid next week. Temperatures we're going to see kind of moderating back towards more seasonal levels. Not going to be really warming up by any stretch, but after being 20 to 40 degrees colder than we should be for a couple of weeks on end, getting back to where we should be is going to feel awfully nice. And that's where you see, we'll play this out, kind of those blues and greens fading, getting more into the transition, getting even some of that red shading with warmer than average temperatures into parts of the Prairie region. But at the very least, as we get to the end of this thing, we're talking about more neutral temperatures. Again, we're in this part of the color bar, so from around average to maybe 4 degrees below average, and we'll take that after the way that it's been over the last couple of weeks. And then what does that look like in terms of actual temperatures? Again, right about where we should be. High temperatures in the lower 30s across the region as we get into the early part of next week. And again, not any major precipitation to talk about, just that light snow Friday across the central prairie provinces there of Alberta and Saskatchewan, and then perhaps far southern Manitoba getting into Ontario, seeing a little bit of snow late Saturday into Sunday. And then we'll just turn our attention to next week, but I'm going to save the details for that one for Monday morning. Eric Snodgrass will have another in-depth look at the next 1 to 2 weeks, and on Tuesday morning, I'll have your next regional forecast right here. Thank you. Have a great weekend.